know until today. Did you know in Minneapolis, with old George Floyd, trial was going on, whatever happened, a year ago, not even a year ago. Did you know they had another police shooting?
I saw it
Sunday night.
I didn't know it was Sunday night. I did.
Yeah, 22-year-old black got shot and killed by a female officer, and the police chief came out and said that it was an accident. She meant to grab her. She meant to shoot a stun gun. Oh man!
I saw that. I didn't even click on the article. I was just so, yeah. That was my husband telling me about yet again another police shooting. And this is actually in Minneapolis, the same area where George Floyd was shot and murdered a year ago, or not even a year ago, last year. Some of you all may be aware that the George Floyd, the case, the trial is happening right now. Actually, I said that wrong. The Chauvin case is happening right now. Is that how you say his name? Right, Derek Chauvin. Derek Chauvin is on trial for George Floyd's death. And even with that, I've noticed if you see the news and the media, they'll spin it and they'll say the George Floyd trial. How can someone who is dead be on trial? Even my husband brought that to my attention, and that's true. George Floyd is not on trial. Derek Chauvin is on trial for what happened. I don't want to go too far into that because, right. There's so much going on in this world today. And I think one of the bigger questions would be, how does the church respond, or how should the church respond? Of course, we being clergy or individuals who are within the church, the first question is, how should the church respond and do? Because usually in times of crisis and chaos, studies show that people go to their clergy first before they go to a mental health practitioner, counselor, psychologist. They're going to go to their local clergy. They're going to go to their pastor, their priest, minister, whoever is in that position of authority. People understand that their soul needs to be addressed, that our mental health is definitely important. It is so very important, but our spiritual health is important as well. And what I would respond to that in saying, how should the church respond? The church should be open and available. When we look at death and what's happening in the world, and we look at police brutality or police policing communities, and there are disparities across state lines about how police officers, how police precincts interact with their community, how they're involved, there are disparities, there's differences, even down to hiring practices of police officers. I'm seeing this more and more, where you would have a community that is 80% Black, 80% African American minorities, but yet the police precinct does not look like them. And we know that it is very important for the police precinct to build a community, a relationship with the people around them, the people that they are protecting and serving, because when you have a relationship with them, you can make great things happen. Your communities can be safer, your schools can be safer. A better response from the community when tragedies like this happen. And we're not fearful of the police, but we are interconnected. We're working together. I remember growing up, there was what was considered as a National Night Out. Some of you all may be familiar with that, where there are different activities for the community to come together. You can get an opportunity to see community leaders, but primarily the police officer there, the fire department is there. And we are different departments, different agencies coming together to make themselves present and known for their community. They're letting them know, this is what we have to offer. This is National Night Out, a night of fun. You're going to see us in uniform, but you're going to see us in a light where you understand that you can trust us, that we're building this relationship. And I think it's very important as the church that we be involved in that as well. We stay involved and interconnected so that the community knows that we are available for healing, that we're available for healing. And unfortunately, when it comes to issues like this, sometimes the church has to be neutral. The church has to be a neutral presence. And so that the lines of communication and connection are open on both sides. I believe that the church is the conduit of healing in the community. So the church is there pretty much in the middle, a representation of the body of Christ, of Jesus, and the church is there in the middle.
Another issue that wasn't specifically addressed within this video that I would have liked to talk about was the reform and restructuring of police force, the training of how police officers approach specific communities, because we all know that different police officers handle different people differently, uniquely, and especially within the African American community. However, we've seen it countless times on the news and other outlets that when a police officer, mainly a white police officer, is met with someone that looks like him, the use of force is not the same. And so therefore, that needs to be addressed as well. Now, I'm not sure whether or not the church should be the sole voice of speaking on those issues, but it is something that also needs to be addressed as well. Reform and restructuring and the rebuilding of police law as it pertains to force. It is very disheartening to see on the news when someone is treated differently, someone is in fact killed because of police force. And if you look at the news, we see that 9 times out of 10, if a police officer encounters another ethnicity, i.e. an African American, that person is in danger of living through that encounter. I am fearful of my husband. I have 2 brothers and I think about them constantly. I think about my nephews. I think about family. And if they will ever have to encounter a police officer and what the police officer will do, how will he or she respond because of the color of their skin? It is something that I think about constantly and I pray constantly. And I know I am not the only person who has had to pray those prayers. So when we talk about policing and restructuring and defunding the police, it's not to say that we don't need the police within our communities. What we are saying is that there needs to be some change within our communities with relationships and how police use force, especially for the African American community.
The church is there to bridge the gap, to heal on both sides. We're going to be in the middle and we're going to make sure that we're catering to the needs of the community, to the people. So what I think that the church should be involved with and doing in this time is preparing ourselves to be open doors. Within my context of the church is that the doors of the church are open. And that was kind of an oxymoron last year when you experienced the closing of so many churches physically, the physical closing of churches because of the pandemic. And also it was almost like it was an oxymoron to see so many churches that closed and we gravitated to the virtual arena. But the church is open. Pastors should be open to hearing the voices of the community. We want to be that open door. It's almost like that supervisor that used to tell you, or that college professor that would say, I have an open door policy. You can come to me whenever you want to. We should be able to have a line of open communication where the community knows that we are available. We can address needs of the community, that we are helping to heal. We are empowering, we are uplifting. We are making provision where it's possible and the resources are available. And we're going to see to it that where you are in your life, it does not matter what's going on, but we're going to pour into you the best way that we know how, given our God-given authority. And we're going to shower you with love. We're going to smother you with love. And you're going to know within this community that you belong. Within this community, we want you to heal. In regards to the George Floyd and this most recent shooting that has happened, it's like our hearts keep getting broken over and over again. It's like the Black community, our hearts keep getting broken over and over again. And I don't want to hear anyone talking about Black on Black crime, because as I've seen articles and different points that have made, which I have gravitated to, you don't hear people saying Asian on Asian crime. I don't hear people saying white on white crime. It's only when it comes to us and African Americans where it is justified for the police killing or brutality because you see Black on Black crime. If I am in a community of my ethnicity, if I'm in a community of my people and there is a dispute or an issue, I'm in the community of people who look like me. So therefore, this issue is happening with people who look like me. It's the same thing with any other ethnicity or national. It's the same thing. I think we as a people have to be more open-minded. We as a people, we just have to remember that we all bleed, that we all bleed. We all can be broken at times. It's tough. It's really tough. Sometimes I don't know what to say. It's so tough because I know in my position and what I am in, I've gone to so many families that people didn't look like me, but I was still there and available. And isn't that interesting that it's like me as an African American, we have always been taught to be available to everyone else. We've always been taught that we have to be available, not have to, but it's almost like it has been unconsciously grained, embedded in us, implanted in us that we have to be available, be tolerant, be understanding of everyone else and everyone else's problems. Maybe because it's almost as though it's a guilt trip. Like, we know you all have been through so much and so much pain, so maybe you should understand what everybody else is going through. And I just think that is so unfair. We've had so much that we've had to encounter and go through. And I look at some of the historical accounts and things that my ancestors went through and just people within the 50s and 60s, what they went through. And it's almost as though you're supposed to just automatically forget everything that happened and just go on with it. Like we were drinking out of separate water fountains, y'all. And I'm not angry, I'm not bitter. I'm speaking about reality. They were drinking. I'm saying we because they were my people. And I could see how devastating that could be. You were having food thrown at you on lunch counters. You were being lynched in trees like you were animals. You were being dragged behind vehicles and pickup trucks like you were dogs. You were told to sit in the back of the class, sit in the back of the bus. You were segregated in so many instances and thought to be and taught to be less than. Can you see why people have issues with America? Can you see why Black people have issues with America? There is so much blood. There is so much blood on the soil of America due to the atrocities and the travesties of Black lives. And I think what is so abominable about what has happened here on this soil, there are too many people who are saying, get over it. And no one tells us, you never hear anybody say, get over the Holocaust. You never hear anybody tell anybody to get over the Indian, the Native Americans, and how they were skinned alive, how they were stripped of their land, how they were bamboozled out of their heritage of the land that they were already on. You don't hear anybody saying, oh, well, Native Americans, you should just get over it. Alcoholism and the different things that they suffer and go through. But when it comes to us, we're supposed to be strong. We're supposed to get over it. It's hard. It's difficult. And yet, we still overcome. Yet, we still rise to the occasion. Yet, like Maya Angelou said, we still rise. We still show up and show strong. And we don't always do it with a smile, but it's like we show up because we know we have to. We're resilient. And I think for me, what is amazing for the people, the line of people that I come from, is that everything imaginable that could have ever been thrown against us, you always see an uprising or an overcoming, that resilient soul. They told us we couldn't do sports. We overcame that. They told us that we weren't good enough in science and mathematics, and we overcame that. Every arena, it's like in every arena, we've had to prove ourselves. And one thing that I'm getting tired of hearing, I'm really getting tired of hearing first African American to do this, because it's almost as though we are perpetuating that thought of, well, you can't do this, but we have to become the first in this. We're still proving that we can do it, and we're becoming the first. And it's like we're mastering every area. Golf. And I don't want to limit it to just sports, because of course that's the stereotype, that we're athletic, and we are, but we're more than just our bodies. We're more than just brute and strength. And that's why I named my business. That's why a part of my segment of my business is Brains, Beauty, and Business, because I'm smart. I'm handling business, and I'm fearfully and wonderfully made on the side. There are some things that need to take place.